Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Aparuta de sangamata satavara esodavanta bhamunjantu satang. So, welcome everyone this afternoon. Chance to reflect on the way it is, the Dhamma. And so, this is looking inward rather than outward. And it's not criticizing anything, it's just be the witness, the neutral witness. It's not saying how you should be or shouldn't be, or what's right or wrong, good or bad, but it feels like this. The emotions that we feel are impermanent and not self. Now this has to be reflected upon again and again, because the world is so convincingly real to us. People ask, is there a point to life? Is it pointless, purposeless, meaningless? Or is there an ultimate meaning or purpose or point to this experience we're all having through these various forms? And so this is the thinking mind. A thinking mind thinks about purpose, meaning. Is there a purpose to the world? What is its ultimate purpose? So notice that this is a way of thinking that does our life have a purpose? Does my life have a purpose? And so when I think about my life, my view, my opinion, my desires, my ideals, we listen to this sense of me and mine, what I think, what I want, what I desire, what should be. And of course, we all had this, Westerners especially, Western people have brought up this idea there's a purpose and meaning to life. But what is the meaning and purpose of a personality, of an emotion? And so we ask ourselves these questions. What is my purpose in life? And what's the point of all this? What's the point of Buddhism, monasteries, monks, nuns? What's the purpose of it all? Are we here to convert Europeans to Buddhism? Because I've been accused of that. I think I'm some kind of Buddhist missionary. My purpose is to convert the citizens of this country to become Buddhists. Is that what I'm here for? Is that what my intention in coming to the UK is to convert English people to Buddhists? And I must say no, definite no, not to convert anybody, but make the teaching of the Buddha available to people who are interested. It's not about forcing religion on anybody or beliefs, or to establish some kind of ultimate meaning and purpose. Because the point of it is to realize Dhamma, which is perfect already. It's not a created condition that has a purpose. And we can only realize this through awareness of the impermanence, the emptiness of sankharas or conditions or phenomena. They arise and cease according to other conditions. You can't trust your emotions because they change according to conditions. But we can be aware of what we're feeling is like this. And we're not judging it. It's not about it's wrong to feel the way you feel, but the path is to see it's a condition that arises due to other conditions, and not to attach to it, or if attached, to let go of it. Is this, we can call this the world that we believe in as an illusion, but yet as experience it seems very real. And so just calling it an illusion is to be questioned. What is illusory about it? What is the illusionary aspect to this world that we live in, this samsara? And then the Buddha pointed to how impermanent it is. It's changing. You're getting old, you get sick, you get depressed, you feel despair, you feel anger, you feel lust or greed. And these feelings, arise due to conditions. They're not permanent. They have no kind of permanent core of reality to them. And the Buddha pointed to their like empty phenomena, like soap bubbles, like foam on the sea, like a wave in a pond. They arise and cease. And our reflective ability as human beings is to reflect on this the way it is, not to grasp and to hold to anything whatsoever. But then if I say life is pointless, then you're going to think it's, how does that affect you if someone in my position says life is just pointless? How does that affect your mind? And you can watch, you can be the witness to it and see that when somebody says samsara is an illusion, and then you observe the effect that has on your consciousness, on your mind, is like this. Some people will agree, some people will question it or disagree, give it some kind of bad name as wrong and heretical, or, whatever words you use, right, wrong, true or false. These are words created by human beings. They're not created by Dhamma. by ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is here and now. It's not something you don't have, but you don't observe, because you grasp what's unreal, what's changing, what's impermanent, and form opinions, views, make decisions around what you're feeling, rather than being observing of grasping emotions is like this. Now, the teaching of the Buddha is not a belief system. Belief is something I tell you what to believe, and then if you trust me, then you believe, because Ajahn Sumedho says so. Or I tell you what's wrong with other religions, or if you're a Theravadan Buddhist, what's wrong with the Tibetan Buddhism, or what's right? And we form these opinions about right and wrong, true or false. And we grasp these opinions, because if I say it's true, then you believe it. If I say it's wrong, you believe it. But right and wrong are conditions. They're about phenomena that change. That's all you can say about phenomena. Is it can be right, it can be wrong, it can be good, bad, true or false. But it's changing, no matter how good it is. It's the goodness of phenomena doesn't last. In the political problems of the world these days about climate change, and is climate change fake or true or right or wrong, or is it changing, or we form opinions in this QAnon attitudes that people form through reading, through taking on opinions and views of various other people. But wrong is like this. When you feel that something's wrong, it's like this. And then you can see that the feeling of something's wrong is an impermanent. It doesn't last unless you grasp it. And grasping views and opinions is like this. Whatever you believe is wrong, grasp it completely and observe what it's like to really grasp your view and opinion about what's wrong is like this, or what's right, or that we're better than others, or we're the true interpretation of Buddha Dhamma, or we're the true ultimate real form of Buddhism tracing back to the Buddha in India. These are views and opinions. And the grasping of them, no matter how righteous they are, is still grasping something impermanent that changes. So we contemplate time and space. Is time our reality? Is time really true? Is it permanent? And of course, when you really contemplate time, it's always changing. There's a beginning and an end. We assemble, we leave the temple, we go back to our meditation huts, we go to our cars, we go back home, next day we go somewhere else. This is about change, impermanence. Our lives as forms in space is about change. Time is definitely impermanent. Space is here and now, so it's wherever you're, and how much you're grasping right or wrong views or opinions. It's always in space. The space, is it right or wrong? Does space have a quality to it of being beautiful or ugly or big or small? Unless we say the space in this temple is big, or we might consider it small. But the space doesn't have a beginning or end. The buildings have a beginning and end. The temple was built, and eventually it will collapse because it's a time-bound condition made out of the four elements: earth, fire, water, and air. And that's all these forms are made out of. My body is just a collection of earth, fire, water, and air in space. So if I grasp this as my life, my purpose as a person, there's something to affirm or deny, then I'm deluded. I'm not a Buddhist anymore. I'm caught in the delusions that the Buddha pointed to. So it's, the importance of the Buddhist teaching, because as long as you grasp things, you're going to be disappointed. Grasping is out of ignorance of the way it is. We grasp things like, tell me you love me even if you don't mean it. Flatter me, tell me I'm great because that makes me feel good. Or don't criticize me because it upsets me. And it's, you can see how people depend on being appreciated, loved, admired, respected. How we want that kind of experience. Life should be about love and goodwill and kindness and compassion. But that conditioned phenomena it has no permanent quality to be permanent love, compassion, or good or right or wrong. Because phenomena, sankhara, sape, sankhara, anicca, all conditions are impermanent. And that's a fact. And in Vipassana meditation, we do this Vipassana, is to investigate. Is this a true teaching? Is everything impermanent? All sankharas are things. So everything and sankhara, the same meaning, is everything impermanent. And so we question ourselves. If we say, well, the Buddha said everything is impermanent, so we believe it. Well, there's nothing wrong in that. But grasping that idea means you're not going to realize it for yourself, to have that insight. Insight is to prove it to yourself that all sankharas, all phenomena is impermanent. And that's what we're here for, to investigate that as we live our lives here at Amaravati, to really investigate how it affects us. We want to, we want to hear Amaravati is a really good monastery, or it's not, or it's right or wrong. So that's praise and blame. Is Amaravati a perfect, righteous monastery as we think it should be, or is it the way it is? So the way it is not about criticism, but just observing that there's no perfect monastery, no perfect religion in forms. But perfection is here and now. It's not something you lack, it's something you don't realize for yourself. In Bhajatang, this word, Bhajatang Vaitita Puvanui, to be realized individually, because even in the scriptures, stories around the Lord Buddha, he couldn't enlighten his disciples. He pointed the way to enlightenment because he wanted his disciples to question the First Noble Truth. There is suffering. This is we don't want to suffer. We'd like to live a life of perfect health, success, loving relationships, security. We'd like to conquer disease and old age, find all the right medicines for sickness. Even some foolish people think of conquering death as forms, as a form, a physical form, male or female. It's, it's this very nature is to get old, get sick, and die. That's the way it is. That's not something we have a choice about. Or we can make it permanent because sankharas are impermanent. Phenomena is impermanent. So the illusions we have is that we want permanent security and happiness from what changes. We can't manipulate conditioned phenomena to be what we want. And how many people try to manipulate things to try to be permanent? And I remember when we had the opening ceremony for the temple in 1999. I thought this is now finished. And all it can do now that it's been built is deteriorate because it is a sankhara. So then the roof started leaking. And then the underfloor heating packed up. And then the bricks in the cloister started decaying in the wintertime. So, then we had to close the temple down during the time we were replacing the underfloor heating. It took a long time to find the right place where the leak is taking place in the roof. And dig up the cloister again and put in permanent kind of bricks that last through an English winter. So these, within the first few years of Amaravati, it started decaying. And yet we built this temple to last 1,000 years. That's just wishful thinking. That's not the way it really is. With the new sala, we wanted to have a perfectly new sala, and then I hear people complain about it, the new sala. So this is, it's just part of it, because it's part of our makeup as human beings to be critical. Things aren't perfect. And, Sankhasara, as very nature, is imperfect. And yet that's what we identify with and live by. And we want to point to our lives as a person, as a condition that's changing, that's getting old, getting sick, and will die. Because these are desirable, to be loved by people, to be respected, to be admired, to be appreciated. These are very positive conditions that we want to experience. And we don't like to be criticized or blamed or looked down on or despised in any way. It's not right to look down on others, to have views and opinions that don't agree with me, what I think, what my views are. So just listening to the BBC World Service in the morning, quite depressing to hear about all the wars going on and the fake news and the changing climate and this whole quite the scandals, political scandals that take place, the crimes that happen in the world. Shouldn't be that way, should it? Why can't we just love each other and be kind? And that's a good question. Why can't we? Because that's not the way it is. As forms, as mortal forms that we identify with, they change according to time. So this change is to be reflected upon and observed. And the experience of your life here at Amaravati the encouragement is to be the witness, the Bhutto, the witness of change rather than the owner of views and opinions. All conditions, sape sankhara anatta, no, they're not personal. Conditions seem personal. My feelings seem very personal. My views about right and wrong are very personal. But that person is an illusion. When I really reflect on, am I a person? I can't find a permanent person. There's no permanent Ajahn Sumedho. Because even that name is impermanent. And being a witness to change, then you realize silence. Because silence or consciousness or Dhamma is perfect. So it's like, trying to find yourself as a thing, and a perfect thing, have a perfect life as a man or woman, and expect everything to be what you want or like or agree with. That's the personality. That's Sakyaditi. The first fetter which blocks stream entry, or Sotapanna. As long as you operate from self, from the ignorant self personality, then that's, when you try to become enlightened or try to, oftentimes we are instructed in the beginning to get samadhi. We have to get samadhi, we've got to get jhana, we've got to get these things before we can reach stream entry. So we grasp these ideas of attaining concentration, attaining jhana, absorption. I've got to get this, and this is all about me as a person trying to get something I want. It's bhavadanha, wanting to get enlightened. Even though that's a good desire, it is a desire. Wanting to get enlightened, wanting to get samadhi, wanting to get jhana is wholesome desire, but it is desire. And desires can never be enlightened. They can only be, they arise and cease according to conditions. So even noble desires are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. Wanting to get rid of bad desires, wanting to get rid of greed, of sexual desire, of anger, wanting to get rid of things, vipassana, wanting to get rid of your kilesas, your defilements. We all want to get rid of them as persons. But can a person really get rid of his unwholesome desires or merely suppress them? And that's what many of us learned how to do when we were growing up, learn how to suppress our desires, trying to get admired and praised because we get A's in our report cards, or we behave our parents, or we're polite and obey the teacher, and we get admired for it, and mother and father are proud of us. And so, in the early stages of conditioning, we're trained to try to be a credit to the family, a credit to the religion. Because praise is, wanting to be admired is when you are a form identified with your body and your emotional habits, your gender, your sexual proclivities, when you feel you are these, then you want to be admired or respected. You've got to respect me. So we make demands on society to be better, which is good. I'm not saying it's wrong. Being liberal, being DEI, being fair, being just is good karma, but you're still not getting to the real source of the problem is ignorance, avijja, paccaya sankhara, ignorance of Dhamma, of your true nature. It leads to trouble, to sorrow, grief, and despair. Every time in my life, just observing my life as I was a layman, when I was in the military, when I was married, when I was in university, when I was a monk. because this is a impermanent, sensitive form that I wanted respect, I wanted to be loved, I wanted to be appreciated, admired. But when investigating, wanting to be appreciated or wanting to be loved as a person, is a personality always lovable? Can we be just lovable 100% of the time throughout our whole life? And you can see, living in a Sangha, we're not always lovable. We may not respect each other and our views and opinions. We may feel unappreciated or persecuted or taken advantage of. Whether it's true or false, it doesn't matter. We can still create scenarios about how I should be appreciated and admired. You know about becoming a monk and teaching Dhamma, and that's all admirable things to admire, but as a person, am I always lovable and admirable and wonderful? Just ask those that have to live close to me. Is it possible as a person, as a personality, as Sakyaditi, to be lovable and admirable all the time? But Sakyaditi is the first fetter that blocks, that creates the basic illusion out of ignorance. The ego, Sakyaditi is the Pali word. In English, we translate that as the ego, the sense of me and mine, self, what I think, what I feel, is so important. Or maybe you might feel, I'm not important, I'm just a humble nobody. I don't want people's attention, I just want to be a humble monk living a quiet, peaceful life. That's still Sakyaditi, no matter how humble and simple and righteous it might appear. And it's wisdom. Sape sankhara anicca, all conditions are impermanent. And even the noble side of me is impermanent. The noble intentions of my personality. I remember with Luang Por when I first went there, the first couple of 3 or 4 years, there was every evening puja. After puja, they'd pass out 5 cigarettes to each monk. And Luang Por liked to chew betel nut. And so, and I'd given up smoking as a samanera, so then, I'd get 5 cigarettes and I'd give them away, but, I felt this was wrong, that they shouldn't, Ajahn Chah shouldn't encourage the monks to keep smoking. Had a strong view about stopping smoking, it's wrong. I found betel nut chewing rather disgusting, spitting out this red kind of stuff from your mouth, and I thought an arahant certainly wouldn't be smoking cigarettes or chewing betel nut. Those were opinions that I formed as an American kind of liberal type person. But I found Wat Pah Pong to be I liked the monastery. I felt great respect for Luang Por Chah, but I could find fault with him because and then 4 years later, he made the announcement that we all had to stop smoking, that anyone who wanted to smoke had to leave the monastery. So I thought at the time, yay, that's right, it's doing the right thing according to my view and opinion. and Jack Cornfield was a monk then, and Dr. Burns, they were two Americans who were ordained briefly with Ajahn Chah. And we were all thinking, hooray, he's going in the right direction. So they stopped passing out cigarettes after evening puja, and Luang Por Chah stopped chewing betel nut in front of everybody. So, then this pleased my view of what I wanted Luang Por Chah to be. I wanted, I could see, I wanted Luang Por Chah to be perfect for me, to fit my ideals of an arahant, an enlightened master. Because I wanted Luang Por Chah to be an enlightened master. So then the following years, when the hippies started coming to Thailand, they'd get sent off to Wat Pah Pong in Ubon. And then they were full of opinions about who an enlightened master is, what an arahant is. And since I had to translate, by that time I'd learned Thai well enough to translate, and so I just felt so annoyed by their criticisms of Ajahn Chah, because how much I wanted Luang Por Chah to be my enlightened teacher. Well, now how does that sound? My enlightened teacher. I'm a Westerner, Western monk, and I want to say my teacher is fully enlightened, because it makes me look good, doesn't it? And so investigating that, just observing, listening to my ego rattle on, I realized the ego is a very conditioned thing, it changes. And later on I went outside the front gate of Wat Pah Pong and I passed Luang Por Chah and was smoking a cigarette. And so then this disillusioned me. He's smoking, but he was outside the monastery boundaries. So is smoking a cigarette, is it right or wrong? Or chewing betel nut, is it right or wrong? It's a matter of opinion. Now it's wrong to smoke. But when I was growing up, when I was a youth, it was fashionable. We all smoked. And it was in the movies, all the movie stars were smoking, and if you didn't smoke, you were looked upon as kind of primitive or not sophisticated to have a cigarette and talk like this. So And now doing that, smoking in a sophisticated way would be criticized. You'd criticize me if I sat here and started smoking a cigarette. So Luang Por Sumedho really disappointed me. He sat in front of the assembly on a reflection talk, smoking a cigarette. Then I'd be criticized. So I don't smoke cigarettes. But because things change, like fashions change. In the 40s, the 1940s, during my childhood, the kind of glamorous people in the movies, Hollywood movies, were avid smokers, drinkers, things like that. So that's part of the early experience of my conditioning, was seeing something that is harmful to your health as something good to do, to be part of the group, to be considered as sophisticated, get praised for it. So this is a way of reflecting on change, how fashions change, the change from Wat Pah Pong. When I first went there, it was very basic and primitive. Now it's beautiful temples and salas and nice kutis. So from a very primitive monastery in 1967, now it's a very kind of famous and well-established monastery with paved roads and bell towers and all the rest that go along with Thai forest monasteries. And yet I could see that something in me idolized Wat Pah Pong when I first went there. I thought that's the real life, where you're a tough forest monk. You're not in a comfortable kuti with air conditioning and soft beds and things like that. I had formed my views about Thai forest monasticism through those first few years with Luang Por Chah, when Wat Pah Pong was just a very basic, primitive, not very beautiful place. But the point with Luang Por Chah was he was pointing at the way things change, not to try to establish a kind of permanent condition where a permanent forest monastery should be like this. A senior monk, permanent monk, should be flawless in every way, be a perfect example, a moral model for everybody all the time. 24/7. And he's pointing to the frailty, the way our personalities change according to conditions. So I want to leave you with the reflection on what is perfect and doesn't change is conscious awareness. When you really investigate and find this out for yourself, that's where the vicha, or understanding, right understanding, take place. Is when you realize for yourself that the silence, the background of all the changing conditions that we experience through these forms. Behind all that's going on all the time, whether we're young or old, male or females, sick or healthy, the silence is here and now, and it's perfect. It's Dhamma, it's ultimate reality. Instead of trying to look for it as a person or some ideal, you realize it for yourself. It's bhajatang. It's to be realized individually through wisdom. So I offer this as a reflection.